Welcome back to the Red Stool. And as you can see, my UA uniform finally came in the mail. And of course, from now on, all of my future chapter reviews, it's definitely going to be in this because I'm just feeling it. Let me know what y'all think. If you want the link, let me know. It'll be in the description below. Just holla at me. It fits perfect. 10 out of 10, great buy. But getting back to the chapter, because I know that's what we all came here for, because it's My Hero Academia chapter 308, Full Power. In this chapter, we get the long-awaited fight between Midoriya and Muscular, because as you all know, we were on a break last week, so we didn't get a new chapter. And before I start talking about the chapter, I just want to say about Deku's costume. Once again, I'm just really feeling this rugged version of it that he has with the torn up ears, and how he's just, the way Horikoshi has illustrated him, he just looks so menacing and mean with just the smile, he has the rebreather on his face with just all the teeth showing, and it's just his eyes and that serious look that he has, along with how everything's just tattered up. It just looks really menacing, and I would appreciate it if his hero costume stayed this way moving on. I can admit, before this, I wasn't the biggest fan of his costume. I thought it looked kind of weird, but now I'm okay, that's going forward, you should have this, maybe some type of costume to strike fear into villains instead of something that's, a copy of All Might's, smile and hair. But moving forward, of course, Muscular, he remembers Deku, and he's super excited to fight him again. Because, of course, up until that point, that fight with Deku, he hadn't really had a fight like that with any other hero. And he's excited to get back into it. And he starts off by just taking the building that Deku's standing on and just he just yeets it. He just gives it a really good throw, sends him and Gran flying, but Deku, who's able to recover. And we also see that he's using another quirk. He's used it to create this giant smoke screen. So now all those old people and all the people that were inside of that building that wanted to jump into the fight, they can't really tell what's going on. So it's keeping them at bay, but also he's using it to obscure his identity. So maybe he's not ready to go full vigilante yet. And I like that, just having that secrecy to the fact that, oh, I left UA and it's okay, this is just this random guy in this smoke cloud that's fighting and that saved Gran and is fighting villains. So seeing that going, I would like that. That would be really cool, just to have Deku as this secret underground vigilante that is covered in smoke screen or too fast to see. It has all these different quirks. It would be crazy to see. But he uses the smoke screen and he's drawing Muscular away, because he's okay, there's been way too much damage to the city, and it's gonna be hard enough for them to rebuild as is. Let me take him somewhere safe, to where as though it won't be a lot of people, and we can just fight. And of course, this is when we can see now that he can also interact with the users of All For One, with the previous users. Outside of, he doesn't have to be asleep or mentally inside of One For All to use it, because N appears to him and he's yeah, you're going a little heavy on the smoke screen, so just peel it back a little bit, because it could work to your disadvantage. And I'm guessing what he means by that is, as well as they can be used to obscure Deku, it can be used just as well for Muscular to sneak up on Deku. So, and I'm guessing, it's probably because he's just on 20 right now. I mean, he's on 20. It's his first battle since he's woken up. It's with somebody like Muscular, and he's seen someone hurt. So he's got a lot. He's emotionally, he's probably riled up, and also he's gained more power and control over. I'm gonna lean on the power side though. He's probably gained a lot more power over One For All since he's woken up out of the coma. Especially now, considering that he can see the vestiges. He can see the vestiges outside of his mind and dreams and whatnot. So of course, and he's just saying, hey, calm down a little bit, and don't think of our quirks as these super powerful things, because they're not. And if I'm being honest, we all, it seems like most of the users that have been shown up, we know that there's two that we don't know what their abilities are at all. But for all the users who have been revealed, they have somewhat like mid-tier quirks. None of them are super overpowered or can do a lot of damage by themselves. And he reminds Deku of that. He's like, listen, you probably hold quirks at a higher standard just because you don't really have one, but don't overlook at our quirks. Just think of them as tools in our arsenal. And then, we get just a page of just Horikoshi just showing us with the illustration. Deku, he has a whip wrapped around himself. He has a smoke grenade in one hand and a little jetpack on to simulate floating. And then lastly, it looks like some type of walkie-talkie sensor system. And I think that's probably just his best way of illustrating danger sense. And also, you kind of see something weird going on with his leg at the bottom. That could just be the power of One for All. But we never could know. It could be one of the hidden quirks that is inside of One for All that we don't know about. So just like that illustration though, and I like the panel. But Deku, he's like, of course, this is gonna work out great for him because he's been preparing for this since he was a fanboy in junior high school. He's got over 10 volumes of notes on different types of hero techniques and what to do. So he's super analytical. So just him telling him to lean into his analytical mindset and to just use the different quirks like tools to get your overarching goal, alongside of the overwhelming power that One for All has. And he's able to do that. Muscular, he pops back out and he's like, yo, come on, like I'm trying to fight. Like, bring out that quirk you had the last time and let's beat on each other. But, Deku, he's not leaning into that. He's not like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I thought it was going to be that type of fight where they're just smashing against each other. Muscular's using his ultimate attacks. Deku, he's throwing out maybe, 2,000,000% smash, whatever. And, thinking about it and everything in which way the series has been going, that's been a little bit unrealistic for me to expect and, probably anybody else, just because it wouldn't do Deku any service as to showing his growth with everything he can do with the quirk. So instead, he grabs him with Black Whip and he slings him into what looks like to be a reservoir. So, he's smart. He's taking the fight away from the city to a fairly isolated location. And now he can go ahead and dispatch Muscular without having to worry about anybody jumping in or any more property damage. So smart on his behalf, and maybe even no eyes. There's no one, to see him, so he doesn't have to keep shrouding himself in the smoke screen to hide the fact that he's a vigilante. But moving, Muscular, he has this conversation. He's like, look, man, like, this is what I want to do. There's no other way around this, because Deku, he's trying to talk him down. He's like, life couldn't be any different for you, Goto. Do you have to do this? Why? Like, it just seems crazy. Like, you just want to fight. And of course, Goto, he's like, yeah, like, that's all I want. Just me being able to run wild, use my quirk. All of this is fun to me. It might just look like death, chaos, and craziness to you, but I take deep joy in all of it. Like, this is what I live for, and this is what he is more than happy to die doing. So, and Deku, but, Deku, he kind of has a little bit of a realization from earlier when he flipped the building on him. When he was like, you know what, you're right. You're not like a smart guy. You're not trying to make any clever tactics or anything like that. You didn't jump up to where I was at on that building because you couldn't. It wasn't because you didn't want to. It was you couldn't. Even though you're able to throw the building afterwards, you didn't have enough power to, because some of your muscles are failing. And he realizes that when he looks at him, that his muscle armor is really uneven. And I think this kind of contributes to a few different things. One is, yeah, of course, we can immediately say, well, he's been in prison, so he probably hasn't had time to, really like work on his quirk or do anything. He's been sitting in jail, not using his quirk. But also what I think is he's never really trained his quirk like that. Like, he's probably trained the power aspect of it to where so he can generate, 12,000 layers of muscle, things like that. He's probably never done it in a technical aspect okay, I have 12,000 layers of muscle, but it's all even. And Deku, he's been noticing that even in their last fight, and especially during this fight, that when his muscle fibers, they get like tight, they're just like loose, and they like end up just snapping and hanging down. And he can see that a lot of the muscle fibers spread throughout his body are loose. And I don't. It's a little hard to see reading the chapter, but I think he hits him with like a quick attack, like maybe he hits him with a flick of the finger or a quick punch. But most of Muscular's muscle fibers snap, and like you can even see that some of his skin is exposed. And he has this moment with Deku. He's like, "Oh, okay, you're a smart kid. Yeah, like you found out one of my weaknesses. When the fibers of my muscles get tired, they snap, and it's like it's kind of they're just there. Like he can't really do too much with them. So I'm guessing he has to shed them and then replace them with more muscle fiber. But with those snap, tendons and not having that extra weight on his body, that's not, and he can't, and they're not helping him. The fibers, they're not connected, and they're all out. They don't have any energy inside of them, so they're useless to him. But they're still connected to his body. So that's kind of his downfall. And of course, with him not, in my opinion, I feel like he hasn't really trained his quirk other than strength, just to make more and get stronger. So he probably doesn't have any good way of mitigating that issue. But then Deku, he kind of hits him with this line where he's like, all right, you know what? This is my full power. And he hits him. He doesn't holler out smash or anything, but you can tell that he hit him with a pretty solid attack. And I wouldn't be surprised if Muscular didn't get up after an attack like that. So the fight could be over. Of course, that's the end of the chapter until this Sunday. But it's a pretty good one, in my opinion. I just like how he's able to piece together all of the different quirks from the past users. And I definitely think that these two quirks that we don't know about, and the two users that they've kind of distanced themselves from him, I feel like their quirks are probably very, very destructive, or they have like some type of quirks that were potentially burdensome on them, and that's why they distance themselves from him and the other users. They don't want to have someone else burdened with their quirk, and for them for them, they just decide to step back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did get two other super high powered quirks as well. And now, I mean, even with all this, he has the quirks, that's good, but he's going to need a little bit more still, I can tell, if he's going to want to fight and stand up to Shigaraki and All For One. Just because, they're on a different level, but I feel like Deku is steadily reaching that level. Also, I just like everything how it went with this chapter, as far as him with the smoke screen, and he's hiding his face from Turtleneck, and nobody really kind of knows who he is. Maybe Gran does. Like Gran will remember, oh, I was able to look up at him when he was holding me. It's that kid from the sports festival from UA. But just him having that secrecy, oh, I'm hiding myself, Maybe he could not want his mom to worry either, like him being on the news, oh, who's this kid from UA that's out? He's turned into a vigilante. He might not want his mom to know what he's doing. And also he might not want to bring unwanted attention on the school. But either way, I enjoy the way that he has this. Now he's kind of like a secretive vigilante hero. Really enjoying this arc. As always, let me know what y'all think in the comments. I'm going to see y'all later. Peace.